customer called me this week and said they want to buy a power plenum for their Air Venturi Avenge X. What do I think of it? And my initial response was, I think it's a cock idea. The guys that designed this rifle designed it in a specific way, and if they felt that they needed a better plenum, they would have obviously added it to the rifle standard. Now, I must also say that I'm not one of those guys that like, fiddling with my triggers and fiddling with the plenums and putting in new screws and new springs and new bullshit. I don't like that. I like my rifles to be stock standard, and therefore my response to the customer. But what I also said is, before I give you a definitive answer, let me phone a friend, get one of these things and see for myself. Now, the first thing that I need to mention about this power plenum is that installation took me less than 5 minutes. It was so simple to do. All I had to do is remove the manometer from the regulator. I then tightened the plenum with the screw that you get. It's got two little O-rings on the side, and I just reconnected my manometer at the back of the plenum. So it literally took me less than 5 minutes to connect the power plenum itself. So from an installation perspective, it wasn't difficult to do at all. Now, what were the results? So what I did with this rifle is I configured it to shoot 25 grain redesign or JSB redesign pellets, and I wanted to shoot them at about 950 feet per second. Now, in order to do that on this rifle without the power plenum, I cranked the hammer spring all the way in, and I set the regulator at 180 bar. So that was what was required in order to propel my 25 grain JSB redesigns at about 950 feet per second. And with that, I got about 27 shots that were regulated with the 25 grain, obviously, like I say, set at 180 bar on the regulator. So I then completed that shoot, came into the shop, I put on the power plenum, went back into the range without changing anything. So literally, all I did is add the power plenum. So when I started shooting then, the speed went from about 915 to 950, so 950. So that was about a 5% increase in velocity without doing anything with the rifle, keeping it exactly the same, 180 bar, hammer spring cranked up all the way in. Now, the first thing that I noticed is I still got only about 27 shots with the power plenum at that configuration, but my standard deviation was a lot lower and my spread was also a lot smaller. So what I then decided to do is to degas the entire rifle. I then put the regulator at 140 and the hammer spring about 2 turns out. So when I took the shots there, I got about 45 shots at 905 feet per second, and my regulator was basically idling, and I also didn't have as much pressure on my hammer spring. It was much easier to load my pellets and just cock the rifle. So what is the purpose of this power plenum and how does it work, and would I recommend it? So the purpose here is, if I have 250 bar on my cylinder, my regulator goes and converts that to 140 bar or 120 bar, whatever I've set my regulator on, and it stores that air in a plenum, and when my hammer spring hits a valve, it releases that air, and that then propels the pellet. So what happens when I increase that volume of air is that I need a lot less on my regulator, because the amount of air that I've got, under the same pressure is a lot more. So when the hammer spring hits that valve, the amount of air that I then use in order to propel that pellet is a lot more than just the standard plenum. So that's really how that process works, which means that I can get a lot more regulated shots, because obviously my regulator is now set at 140 bar as opposed to 180 bar. So from 250 to 180 is about 27 shots, but from 250 to 140 is about 45 shots that are regulated. Now, does this use less air? I don't think so. I don't think that that's the purpose of this setup. The purpose of the setup is to get more regulated shots at a lower pressure on my regulator, which means that my rifle is a lot more harmonic in that process itself. So, do I recommend that people go and add a power plenum to their Air Venturi Avenge X? And the answer is hell yes, most definitely. Just to give you an idea, I'm not one that likes to shoot 25 grain pellets out of my Air Venturi Avenge X. I really like the 22 grain JTS pellets or the new 20 grain JSB light pellets. So that's what I'm really comfortable with. I can shoot a very nice grouping about this size at 100 meters with those pellets, even with the light breeze. So I don't personally think I need to shoot 25 grain pellets or 25 grain slugs, but there are people out there that want to hunt and really get their rifles up to like 930 feet per second with the 25 grain. And for that purpose, you definitively need to get this power plenum. Your rifle just works a lot less hard than if you don't have that plenum. So what is my rifle set on now? My rifle is set on 110 bar. The hammer spring is turned out probably about 4 turns, and I'm shooting the 20 grain JSB pellets at 905 feet per second. My standard deviation currently sits on 2.4, and I'm shooting probably about 50-55 pellets. I'll still go and measure that, but it was quite a few pellets that I could get through that configuration. And like I say, there was a lot less strain on my rifle. Okay, see you guys in the next video.